The topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Taking a chance. Telling me to dance, taking a chance.
Hello. Welcome to the Laws of Empowering Entrepreneurs. If you've noticed, I am not Blanca. Those of you that are familiar with our wonderful show and come to see us here know from the Laws of Life, know that she is the most incredible host. And she's been kind and blessed enough to let me pop in as a co-host starting very, very recently so that the people that are involved in our mutual communities, and she has such an incredible mix of people. And I'm blessed enough to have my own private community of incredible healers, coaches, experts, and therapists from around the world as well. Lucky enough to bring one of them with me today to introduce, to bring on and to interview and to go into a deeper dive. And I apologize, we're coming in a couple seconds off, but you know what? The wonderful world of internet, especially when we're dealing with people from the UK and from other parts of the world, you get the blessings that come with the gifts. So in that capacity, very excited to bring to you today an incredible treat from, as they say, across the pond. Let me introduce to you the incredible AnYes van Rhijn. AnYes, how are you, my dear?
Made it.
Yes, so glad we could have fun and we could bring you in. And it's part of the joy of real life, real live, real everything, that sometimes fun stuff happens. You got to roll with it.
Exactly. But the only thing I now hope is that now I have enough battery on my iPad, so it should work.
We've got you for the next couple minutes, and we're going to have a deep dive. Let me preface by AnYes and her incredible area of background can easily be summed up with her tagline. She is the Reinvention Mentor. She's empowering women worldwide, award-winning entrepreneur, vision and mindset expert, personal branding and personal effectiveness specialist. For her, she works as an international life and business transformation mentor. She's created the 4 C's, a holistic empowerment framework based on 4 pillars: self-awareness, conscious choices, intention, and focus, and a 4-step process: clarify, clear, create, consolidate. In her world, she's also blessed enough to be in that capacity for so long, helping so many women, and she focuses on that group, that she has an incredible personal story of her own to share with us. And we're lucky on our end to have her as one of our tenured instructors with us for life over at theessentialacademy.org. So without further ado, let me introduce the wonderful AnYes.
Thank you so much for having me, Nathan, and thanks for the lovely introduction.
It's a pleasure to have you. Please, I think everybody would probably start with the most obvious of questions, and I'm sure you've answered it a million times. Your first name seems to be written a little unusually.
The usual conversation starter works very well. Yes. My mother was 12 years old when she was Dutch. Both my parents were Dutch, although I'm French. And she was 12 years old when she had her first French lesson. And one of the girls was named in Dutch Agnes and was named AnYes in French. And that day, my mother decided that she would ever have a daughter, she would be named AnYes. But the trick with AnYes is only French people know how to pronounce it, because you spell it like Agnes in English or Agnes in Dutch, but it's the same spelling. So I hate Agnes. I hate Agnes. I love AnYes. So one day, an American coach introduced me in writing, and she wrote between brackets to be pronounced AN-yes. And I thought, oh, that's a good idea.
Wow.
And I started using it. But then the feedback I got was, oh, the yes in it, it's so much you. And so I ended up taking out the hyphen, but without a capital Y, you don't see the yes in it. So I've capitalized the Y to the extent that my only inflexibility in life now is that the why has to be capitalized, because I say yes to life, and it is totally part of my identity and part of my brand.
That is so important. Besides a personal branding expert that you are, it's important that other people see that you walk the walk and you talk your talk for yourself. And you're vulnerable. You're bold. You go forward and go, this may be polarizing. This may be binary. People may look at this and go, well, I don't like that at all. I don't have the middle T in my name capitalized. What the heck? I could do that too. And I'm like, you could if the focus was on your tan,
Up to
tan,
you.
which it's not. So that's brilliant. That is so smart and nice. And I like that it comes across as something that is there for others to be empowered by and go, well, you can do it too. That's excellent.
Yeah. And you know, it's even funny because it corresponds with a major transition in my life. And I'm not that familiar with numerology, but there's only one letter difference between the two spellings.
Mhm.
And one day I thought, by the way, what's the difference in numerology when
Okay.
you have one or the other? And interestingly enough, I was Agnes before that transition,
Oh, neat.
and I am AnYes since. I mean,
So energetically, that changes
there
everything.
is a
Wow.
it was a massive transformation.
No kidding.
So it's not just, you know, but yeah, interesting, very interesting.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of powerful stuff that comes because there's so many big moments in your life that were just huge impact. And I don't want to let any of that give away and stuff. Tell us how you got to where you got to and where this recent journey started, how you started going to empower yourself first and then empowering other entrepreneurs.
Well, I have been in the coaching field for 15, well, probably 16 or 17 years by now. But I was in France working internationally as an executive coach, change management consultant. But something wasn't feeling right. Still, something was not working. I loved what I was doing, but somehow something was missing. And so, interestingly enough, I wanted to work with women, but then, of course, you bring that back that many years back. It was all executives, men, of course. And so, every time I decided I wanted to work with women only, the universe was testing me, was sending me men. And then every time I decided, okay, I continue with corporate world, the universe was testing me and was sending me a woman. As in, do you really know what you want? And so I didn't dare, you know, make that bold move. But then, in fact, life decided for me in a way, because I was in a toxic relationship. And that was, so now we're talking about, what is it, 8 years ago. I was 57. And I decided to leave. And I decided to leave knowing that I would lose absolutely everything, which I did. I moved in with one of my sisters for 1 year and her family. But what happened then is that somehow myself say to my clients that when we are in a difficult situation, whether we know it or not, at a subconscious level, we have chosen it, which is a very hard thing to hear for someone who's in a toxic relationship. And by the way, this wasn't physical. This was really mental, emotional. And it's very difficult to hear that. But ultimately, I thought, oh, wait a moment, that is true. So then I started looking into it. I started thinking, why have I accepted to be in that situation at a subconscious level? So then I did a lot of inner work, looked at past patterns, because this was something that I was repeating not only in romantic relationship, but family, friends, things like that.
Yes.
And what I realized, if I give you that shortcut, is that ultimately what I was so badly in need to be loved that I was sacrificing myself for others. I was buying love. So as in, Nathan, if I'm sacrificing myself for you, you will find me lovable, no? So that was at a subconscious level, but that is actually the pattern that I was repeating over and over again. So what I then decided is that instead of stepping into victimhood, I decided that it would be far more useful, if I can call it useful, to actually take charge and decide that this was an amazing opportunity to actually reconsider all my choices in life and business, which I did. So the very first decision that came out of that, so my roots are Dutch. I am French. I was living in France. I've lived there most of my life, but I have never felt home in France and have never felt home in the Netherlands. I have been strongly influenced by two cultures who geographically are very close to each other, but who are drastically opposite. And so the first decision I made was to stop working with the corporate world. I decided to really work with women entrepreneurs only. And I was in the process of renegotiating a very big contract with an oil and gas company in Budapest. And I picked up my phone. So I left him in August, and in December, I picked up my phone and I said to my contact there, I'm no longer working with the corporate world, which was an extremely scary move because financially that would have...
Sure, you have no clue.
But it felt so incredibly right. So that was massive, but...
Can you reflect on that for a moment? Because there's a lot of us that go through that, and there's times when we're about to make a financial investment commitment. And if it's not in some, shiny red car or something silly, a toy, a gift or something, if it's actually an investment in yourself, in your education, in your coaching, in your ongoing development, and it may turn into something wonderful. It may give you that spark that you didn't have. It may give you that interesting edge that you didn't know. Or it may be a couple $1,000s wasted. You never know. But at the end of the day, it's empowering to bring yourself to that place and to go, hey, I have to invest. And if I'm going to invest, I'm going to invest in me.
Yes, absolutely. Well, in this case, obviously, so you're preaching to the converted, definitely. But in this case, it wasn't even about investing in myself. It was I was saying no to a source of income at a moment where I left with 43 euros.
Talk about the ultimate investing in yourself. That's what I mean, though. If there's entrepreneurs here who are going, I don't know, should I spend a couple $1,000s and, do a coaching program or maybe put on a webinar or this and that? There's no right or wrong answer. Everybody's in a completely different place. But for you, where you were, you said, I won't do this anymore. Even if it was extra money, even if it means I don't know where my new money is coming from, it doesn't matter. All of us at one point have to jump off that cliff.
Exactly. And I think it has everything to do with being clear about what you want, which of course starts in a situation like that by what you don't want anymore.
Yes.
You don't want something anymore. And then you start looking, what do I want instead? Which is a part of my vision course at Essential Academy, of course.
Which I want to get into. Before we do, I do want to go to a quick commercial break where we get to talk about the Roku channel for 2 moments and give everybody a little bit of background that if you haven't been here before, if you haven't seen the incredible things that Blanca's doing outside of empowering entrepreneurs and the laws of empowering every Thursday at 11, there are so many wonderful things she does for the community to empower everyone, to bring it and raise the way that the tide raises all boats. So let's go to a quick Roku commercial and we'll be right back to go even deeper. I am so excited, AnYes. We'll see you very, very soon. And welcome back. Ladies and gentlemen, we have the wonderful AnYes with us. And yes, you pronounce AnYes because it is not the way that you traditionally do it. If you missed the first half of the show, you missed the cool backstory behind it. Next time, come earlier. Now we're moving forward. We're talking to the Reinvention Mentor, a lady that empowers women worldwide, specifically with vision and mindset, giving them new choices, being a development booster, a source of renewed motivation and inspiration. And she's going to approach change from the viewpoint of emotional intelligence, creativity, a positive collaborative attitude. And that's why her results are so solution-oriented. Right now, we're going to hold her feet a bit to the fire and ask for some tools, some techniques. Backstory is wonderful, but we want to know a couple cool things because Blanca would do this to you. After 25 years as a trial lawyer, that lady would ask you some pointed questions. So to keep her spirit alive, tell us one thing. If I was a female entrepreneur in a headspace where I wasn't 100% clear, 100% sure, am I doing this right? Am I saying this right? Am I presenting myself in the most correct form? Where would you answer that from?
Well, it's what my answer is going to apply to a lot of things. It's all about clarity.
Okay.
It's all about clarity. So you need to be clear about where you're at in your life today. You need to be clear about who you are, what's important to you. So your why, your values, your needs, things like that. And you need to be clear about where you want to be going, because your question has to do with how do I present myself, etc. Well, if you don't know who you are, if you don't know what's important to you, if it's about presenting your business, if you don't know what you're doing, who you're doing it for, etc. So clarity is all in capitals, clarity. And the reason why I have succeeded in rising from my ashes, and at some point we'll hear the second party of the story, is that I was very clear about my vision and I knew how to overcome my fear. So clarity, 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 clarity. I can't repeat it enough.
That's important because there's a lot of people that they're so busy with perception and they're so busy looking, well, if I call myself a coach, I got this stigma attached to it. And if I call myself a therapist or a specialist or a trainer, there's all these different connotations and feelings associated with those words. How do I present myself in a way that changes it? Because you are so unique. The Reinvention Mentor, I've never seen that anywhere else. Everybody else wants to be that.
That is my brand. But let me bounce back on what you just said from the angle of me being a personal branding expert. You're not a coach. That's not what a person is buying. You're not a therapist. That's not what a person is buying. What they are buying is the outcome, is the benefit of working with you. And I think that is a major challenge for people, in particular in service-oriented businesses, is that they know what you need to go through to achieve the result. But the client, if they don't know that, they will never buy it. All they know is what an American copywriter, Rhonda Norman, says. She says, your client is in Pain Island. They want to go to Paradise Island. They don't give a damn how you bring them there. So we tend to sell the process. Clients don't buy the process. So coach, therapist, whatever else is just a label.
That's the process. That's so brilliant. Ladies and gentlemen, take notes. If you get nothing else out of this entire session today, talk about empowering entrepreneurs. Stop worrying about how to shine a spotlight on yourself to make yourself look pretty and amazing and impressive and this and that and the other thing. That'll only resonate with so many people. If you want to really, really come across properly, what's the change that you bring?
What is the change that you bring? Yeah, exactly. So
I love that. Thank you so much, AnYes.
It's really important to have, again, that clarity, which implies that you also, which leads me also to another component, and that is this notion of, should I niche down or not? Well, when we start our business, we tend to be afraid that we won't have any clients. So we say we can work with blah, 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 the whole series. But that doesn't resonate. No one recognizes themselves with that.
Yeah.
So what you actually need to do is to position yourself as an expert. So that's a specific sort of people, or that's a specific sector or whatever, so that when someone is searching for you, there are not 3 million other coaches showing up, but maybe 10 or 12 or whatever who have that same area of expertise that's so specific to you.
Yes.
And what's interesting is that I think the mistake that people often make when it comes to niching down is that they think that if they niche down, they cannot work with all the other people they want to work with. Well, that's just positioning.
Agreed.
I'm often asked, do you work with men? It's increasing. It's less and less true that I work with men, but I did, and I never put energy, time, and money to find them. But if they were finding me, and we were a good fit, I've had amazing work with men as well. But it's just position.
Hopefully present company included.
But you know, also, I often take that example. If your target market is millennials,
Okay.
you're not at all going to talk to them the same way than if your target market is baby boomers.
Agreed. You
And
should.
or the same way if you talk to men than if you talk to women, or vice
Fair.
versa. Or
Fair.
if you talk to an individual, or if you could talk to a corporate client.
Fair.
It's not the same language. So how can you resonate with them? So yeah.
That's very important. It's not just the clarity, it's then in the clarity of your message. You've got your internal clarity, and that's brilliant. But then externally, are the words that you're using making it congruent for somebody to take a look at you and say, well, that makes sense. That adds up. Yep. Okay. And all those bells go in a row. It all makes
Yeah,
sense.
it's about them feeling that you're talking to them directly, because the language is the same. Let's put it this way. But I think it's also a matter of being true to yourself, which brings me back to the knowing who you are, what you stand for, your values, etc. Because if you are faking who you are professionally, people feel it. Even if they don't know it, they feel it. So just be you, just be authentic. And that may imply, same for me, that some people will love you and some people will hate you. Well, you're not for everyone, and that's okay. Can you serve everyone anyway? No. So
You can't do it. And that's so nice to know that there's a lot of people that are scared, not just with niche and finding such a small area to go with, but I can work with everyone. No, you can't. Coca-Cola can't work with everyone. Ford can't work with anyone. If the biggest, Amazon can't work with everyone. So if the biggest companies on earth can't, then how could you? That doesn't make sense.
what I often say to clients in a situation like that is, how many clients can you actually handle?
And when we look at it, and that's you personally, and then we look at scale, right? And then we look at the laws of empowering entrepreneurs, and then you got systems, and then you got teams, and then
but even with the best systems and automation and teams and etc., you can't serve everyone.
No. And you
So-
shouldn't.
and you
shouldn't. And that's so much more important than, but how can I try? Stop it. You're not understanding the point. You don't want to. There's people that will never, ever, ever, ever resonate with you, and vice versa. And the amount of time and energy you'll spend with them, it's just not worth it.
Absolutely.
In that ability to give people the clarity that they're looking for, how often have you found that their brand or the way that they chose to position themselves or be visible was the number one thing that was actually blocking them, compared to how many times it was their own mental mindset and perception of their brand being, oh, it's my brand that's not working, compared to it's them holding themselves back?
That's an interesting question. I think that actually one misperception is that you wake up one day and you know who you are, what your brand is, and you work in progress constantly. So you can't imagine how often I have changed the name of my business. And interestingly enough, I for some other reason, I was going through archives recently, and I realized that even if the name of my business had regularly been changing, I've been called Conscious Leaders Academy, Successful Women Academy, Success on Your Own Terms. I went back to Successful Women Academy, now the Reinvention Mentor. Ultimately, even if the name wasn't necessarily that one, I've over that time always been talking about the same. But it's taken me a long time to actually realize that even if I was changing certain words, etc., ultimately the message has always been the same. And so
you're changing those more for you than for others,
because it had more to do with the fact that I had the impression that it wasn't clear enough or whatever. But that is okay, because a brand can evolve. It's totally okay to. So sometimes people will say, "Oh, but what will they think of me that I'm constantly changing?" If you are constantly changing, as in doing something completely different, yes. That's something else. But if the core of the message ultimately remains the same, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
I agree. And I think that's important that people go, there needs to be evolution. Everybody, as a simple example, somebody like Tony Robbins, very different message, 1980s, 90s, 2000s, 2010, 2000s now. Same guy,
Because
nothing changed.
we're in constant evolution.
He's a different guy. He's got a different life now than he did then. He's got a different, life in so many capacities. So all of us do. Each and
Yeah.
every one of us do. And if you don't, my goodness, why not? You really, really should.
That's the core of being human.
Yeah.
It's growth. So
Yes.
therefore transformation.
Ladies and gentlemen, the core of being human is the growth. That's the transformation. We will officially use the hell yeah sign. It has been lifted. We have been nominated. How wonderful. AnYes, let me ask you, if we're looking at giving somebody, okay, you come across both for personal branding and personal effectiveness as a specialist in both. Where would the difference be between personal branding and personal effectiveness?
Well, I'm going to go a step back. Personal branding and personal effectiveness are just two areas of my expertise.
Okay.
Entire approach is, so this whole notion of reinvention comes from the angle of I am choosing to step in the driver's seat of my life, and I'm consciously choosing to redesign life and business on my own terms. That's what it is about. That's the core. But the way I approach it is a very holistic approach. I cannot cut you into the person and the business. And so sometimes people say to me, how can you have so much experience and expertise? And then I start laughing and I say, well, I'm not exactly 25. I've had a little bit of time to be trained in the various topics and life experience and the works with my client, etc. But it's clarity, it's confidence, it's mindset, it's business strategy, it's personal branding, work-life balance, self-care, personal effectiveness, and everything that has to do with systems and tools, automation, etc. To me, that's the entire. So when people work with me, well, as I said, I'm working with women. It's a 9 months one-to-one program because we are giving birth to a new them.
I like that.
They're women. It's a pregnancy. And I've been working this week with a client, and she said to me, we started working a month ago, probably. No, she said 6 or 7 hours by now.
Okay.
And she says, and yes, I'm so impatient. And I said, you need to build strong foundations. You're not 25 and you're going to change every 5 years or whatever. You want to build something strong. And so it's important that the foundations are there so that what happens, the whole house is not collapsing. And that is what I focus on. And I've had a very hard time for a long time to decide what was coming first from the chicken and the egg. And in what I said, there are a lot of chickens and a lot of eggs. And ultimately, everything is intertwined. Everything is intertwined. You need all of that for it to be sustainable. So personal branding is one aspect. Personal effectiveness is another. Why am I focusing on the personal effective part and the systems and the tools part, etc.? Because we don't have enough time. Everyone is overwhelmed.
Yes.
And so I personally, when I was an executive coach, one of the things that I was doing is I was delivering time and priority management courses to executives. And one of the first questions that we would always ask at the training was, what is time? So they come up with all sorts of answers. Time is life. You can store it. Once it's gone, it's gone. And there are only a number of hours in a day. There are 1,440 minutes in a day. You cannot add a minute. If you want to add a minute, you need to take a minute out. So you can decide how to make the best of that. One thing is clear, you have to accept that you won't have the time for everything, but you can choose what you want to focus on. And I personally hate wasting my time. And don't get me wrong, I have moments where I binge watch Netflix or whatever. I feel like doing nothing. But generally speaking, I want to optimize my time because I don't want to waste time, and I want to be in control of my time. And I say control, we are never in
As much as
control.
we can be.
Exactly. I don't want time to be in control of me.
That's
And,
very important.
and one of the things that I've done, and I don't ship it to the US, by the way, because it would double the price. I've designed an empowerment planner that
Right
is
on.
helping me stay focused, intentional, and focused every single day. And there is a digital version of it, a hybrid.
I don't care if it's twice the price. I'll pay 3 times the price. The people who understand the value of things, and making it more exclusive only increases the value. You got a car that's 200,000 and a car that's 2 million. I guarantee you the car that's 2 million doesn't go 10 times faster than the car that's 200,000.
No, it for me it does what it needs to do, and it has become the companion book of my work. When I work one to one with clients, they always get
I'm
it.
convinced that if somebody's going to spend the time and effort and the financial implications of working with you, they'll drop whatever it takes to get that book to them.
No,
That
no,
is
no.
so
If
important.
they work with me, I'll gift it to them.
Oh, even better, ladies and gentlemen, go work with AnYes. Get the darn book. Honestly, it's included in it. Literally, it doesn't get better than that. I love it. I love it. And it's important that we go in that because your purity of purpose is so clean. And everyone can see that, oh, this is all I do. This is it. You know, I don't sell long distance phone cards on the side. I don't have an MLM where I do skincare and other products. This is you. This is all you do. And there's some people
Yeah.
that seem to have that fragmented version of themselves because they haven't committed. They don't have the clarity. But even if they had the clarity and they knew what they wanted to do, and they knew they wanted to be a, for lack of a better word, let's say intuition coach.
You know, what is interesting in what you're saying is that actually, I think that in not all cases, but most cases, a lot of cases, when they start doing multiple things like that are totally unrelated, for me, it comes from an angle of scarcity. I'm
Okay.
afraid I'm lacking money. So
Okay.
interestingly enough, I am very clearly on a mission to help women become emotionally and financially independent.
Ooh.
And I do that because I want them, in doing so, to become first I want them to always have the power of choice. That's why I want to be emotionally and financially independent. But in doing so, I want them to become role models for more women to do the same.
Yes.
Because as the Dalai Lama says, women will change the world. It's the Western women who will change the world. So that's what drives me. Because I'm such a networker, I have a huge network. I have been approached by so many MLMs because they want me.
Of course.
But then coming back to the personal branding, I've always said no, because if it's not aligned with my personal brand, then the answer, it doesn't make sense for me to start selling Herbalife or New Skin or whatever other product.
Agreed.
But I came across recently a company in cryptocurrency that I absolutely love there, and they're not in the US, by the way. And in Canada, they are not in the US and Canada, if I remember well. But they are very strong in Australia, etc. But I absolutely love their why. The why they are doing what they are doing. They want
why
to.
is so important.
They want to disrupt the financial system. But so I enrolled in that. It is an MLM. That's not why I enrolled in it. I enrolled in it because it was coherent with my mission.
Is the why. You bought into the why. Yep.
So I am not offering that solution to my clients.
Of course not, because it's not you. I get that.
But if they are interested in complementing the business with that, then I am offering.
Brilliant.
It. So you see, it's that coherence. For me, it
when
has
you joined us with the Essential Academy, there was that same cohesion of message to go, oh, we're here, we serve others, we help others. Yes, there's courses, yes, there's events, yes, there's stages and audiences to stand in front of. But ultimately, is it for yourself to go, hi, I'm super wicked awesome, or is it to help others? And that's
what makes the difference. I'm currently building this academy, and what drives me for women, it's a membership portal, an app, and it is offering not only business skills but also life skills and personal development, because for women, being successful in business is so much more difficult than for men because they have so many other things.
Ooh, hold on. That is a big one. I want to unwrap it, and we only have a couple minutes left. Let me go first to one of our wonderful corporate sponsors. Let me put out a quick shout out there to Mr. Tim Maraki, lawyer extraordinaire. Let's take a minute, learn about him, and come back. And I want to wrap this up and get deeper into this. Thank you. Awesome. Welcome back. Ladies and gentlemen, in the last few moments, before we close out this incredible section, and we've had so many roller coaster rides. We've had ups, we had downs, we had tech issues in the fun, and we've had incredible stories in the middle. And we've seen some very clear techniques, exercises for you being able to empower yourself as an entrepreneur. And now where our wonderful guest, the Reinvention Mentor from across the world and over across the pond in the UK, someone who's near and dear to all our hearts, someone who's a tenured instructor with us over at theessentialacademy.org, and who's now put under her belt a wonderfully live Roku channel, 137 people, broadcast live. We're on TV, ladies and gentlemen. Enjoy. This is AnYes, and where she's going to close the show off in the next couple minutes and tell us a little bit of the specifics, things that you can take away right now. Little things that you could go, I'm going to grab a piece of paper, I'm going to grab a pen and do exactly what she just said. I think that exercise will help me.
I think that the one I'm going to choose is how to identify you operate from a place of fear so that you deconstruct it and leverage it as a fuel instead of letting it paralyze you. Fear is, I tend to say fear is the poison of life. Unfortunately, it will always be there. Absolutely always. And we all operate from a place of fear, whether we know it or not. And fear comes in many disguises. If you're procrastinating, it's fear. If you are perfectionism, it's fear, etc. So when you notice that you're operating from a place of fear, because it prevents you from growing at whatever level, ask yourself, what am I afraid of? And you identify what you're afraid of. Oh, I'm afraid that if I have to speak on stage, I will not remember what I have to say, for instance. Then the next thing you need to ask yourself is it true that it will happen? And by definition, it cannot be true because it has not happened yet. So that helps you realize that it's not a fact. You create it there between your 2 ears. And from there, you need to deconstruct it. So you deconstruct it by finding counterproof. Oh, last time that I went on stage, did I actually forgot what I had to say? Or, that's the principle. And then from there, you can then use, NLP tools or things like that. You can anchor. If you have experienced a good experience before, then how did it feel, etc. So you can anchor that feeling and then project yourself succeeding next time. And from there, the antidote to fear is action. The antidote and there is a very
massive action cures everything.
There is a very clear explanation for that. Your mind can only focus on one thing at a time. Sure. I talk about focusing. And when you are focusing on fear, if you don't stop it, you give it room to inflate. And that is what then paralyzes you.
Yes.
So the sooner you identify you operate from that place of fear, you can then deconstruct it. And then from there, you focus your attention on action. So you're shifting what your mind is focusing on. So it may not totally disappear, but it will totally lower the effect it has on you. And how often have we been dreading something, and when we start doing it, we think, oh my God, was that all there was about it? So fear is a killer. Fear is really what prevents us from going further.
I remember that's always been that, yeah.
But it's not real. We create fear ourselves. And I'm not talking about real fear, of course.
No. And then in our world, like I look at fear as an acronym, false education appearing real.
I have a very simple definition for fear. It's the anticipation of something that will happen, but that probably won't.
How
Because
funny, eh?
because
How
most
funny.
of the time it doesn't. Most of
Yeah.
the time it doesn't.
And we're spending so much energy on things that probably will never, ever, ever happen. And if we could instead focus that energy on something positive that actually could happen instead of a negative that probably won't, what a difference our lives would have.
It would be and I mean, you know everything about energy. I always say every day we have 100% of energy, and one day it's a lot and one day it's not, but it's still 100% of what we have.
Yes.
What do we choose to focusing it on? If we focus on something that we can't change, it's wasted energy that we don't have anymore to dedicate to stuff that we can do something
There's a
about.
hell yeah, ladies and gentlemen. That is 100%. I agree with that. Because in our world, I play as an energy coach for the last 25 years with 10,000 people going through my hands that are elite athletes, Olympians, former Cirque du Soleil artists. I play in that intersection between time and energy. And people know that you can't get more time, but you can get more energy.
Yeah.
And if I gave you an hour and you didn't know what to do with it or you couldn't do anything with it, it's pointless. But if I give you more energy, oh my goodness. So AnYes and I play in a completely similar sandbox in completely different ways. And it's wonderful. It's really wonderful. We look forward to playing more with you, with your community. We look forward to more to hearing about you and your incredible pursuits. We thank you for supporting everyone. And ladies and gentlemen, even though Blanca isn't with us today, no, it's not me with the new haircut. I'm Natan. I'm co-hosting for Blanca. And this week, she's not going to be with us, but next week, I think she might be. And if she is, she's going to be so happy because she's going to be involved in the laws of empowering entrepreneurs, something that each and every one of us has to remember. There's always going to be people 3-4 steps ahead of you, and there's always going to be people 3-4 steps behind you, for lack of a better word. You can help them. You can lift them up. They'd give their left arm to have your problems right now and your obstacles that you're trying to figure out. So
yeah, that's another one that we often make as a mistake. Oh, but I still have so many problems, and how can I help others? Yeah, you can help those who are.
You still can, even if you haven't figured it all out. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Thank you very, very much for joining us. AnYes van Rhijn, ladies and gentlemen, the Reinvention Mentor, empowering women around the world. Reach out to her. Reach out to us. Take a look and see if personal branding, personal effectiveness, and a specialist in something like that is exactly what you were looking for to help you as an entrepreneur become empowered.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having us. Thank you for being an instructor with us at the Essential Academy. Ladies and gentlemen, Natan Verkhovsky, the Laws of Empowering Entrepreneurs. I want to thank you so much for joining us this week, and I will see you very, very soon.
Thank you. Bye.
You're like a circle that floats around me, keeping me safe and sound. And when I fall, you've tied a rope to me. You're blessing me every day. I was down with an illusion, like a sparrow with broken wings. But now I shine with your reflection on me. I'm getting back up on my feet.